It's time to check your money with America's money maven, Vicki Brackens. Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. Vicki, how are you doing today? Tax day coming up.
George, tax day is coming up. It's not even right around the corner. If you haven't done it now, okay, you are really in serious trouble. I can imagine some folks, though, are looking at some all-nighters, and shout out to all the accountants and tax preparers around the world. I know this is your most stressful time period, but guess what? It's almost over. It's almost over for another year.
For most people, but not everybody.
Okay. For the tax preparers, it's almost over. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. But you're right. Okay. Anyway, George, before I get started, let me make sure everybody remembers what they're supposed to do. You're to like, share, and subscribe to this segment on YouTube. Make sure that you hit that follow us button and subscribe. We want to make sure that we get this information out to everyone that we possibly can. So we had a lot of fun last week.
We did.
I enjoyed your questions.
Thank you.
I listened to them a couple of times afterwards, okay, when I went onto YouTube myself. So thank you very much for a very engaging conversation. I hope what we do this week will actually ramp that up a little bit, George.
Okay.
Because guess what?
What?
We are unfortunately probably facing, this is no guarantee, but probably facing a recession sometime, I would say, in the next 8 to 12 months. Okay,
Debbie Downer.
I'm not a Debbie Downer. This is not a Debbie Downer segment. This is Let's Get Ready segment.
Oh, okay. I like it.
Let's get ready.
Let's turn it around.
There are things that you can do now that will make the impact of a possible recession a lot easier to contend with. So let's get ready. First thing, over the summer, those of you who may have been thinking about, I want to get a little extra change in my pocket, I want to get a little extra side hustle, I would tell you, don't think about it. Go do it. Go and do it, so that you have that, that extra income put aside in case the predictions that we have are going actually happen.
Let me get this straight. So you're predicting that in the next 9 to 12 months, there will be a recession.
Yes.
And so your first prescription is, don't think about that side hustle. Get that side hustle.
Get that side hustle. Get it today, okay? Because it's going to be, there will be a lot of individuals who maybe 6 months from now go, oh, I need a side hustle. And the window will be closed because there'll be so many people rushing toward extra income that may not be available anymore. So get it today. Second thing, if you are concerned about what's happening there with your employer, and you think that there's a possibility for a layoff that's coming, then instead of moaning and groaning about it, if you can't get a side hustle and you have the opportunity for extra hours, overtime, take as much overtime as you possibly can. Start doing it now. Make yourself indispensable to your employer.
And for some people, it's easier to get more hours at the place you're at as a side hustle than perhaps going out and getting more. So if those hours are available to you, by all means, take it.
Start taking them, okay? And make yourself, because you are now increasing your brand. You are saying to your employer, I'm a team player and I'm here for you. So when it's time to make some of those decisions about who should stay and who should go, if there's any leeway, your employer may look back at that time period and say, oh my gosh, George was a team player. We want to keep him here on the team when it's time to trim some of the fat. Third thing, I read an article, George, and did some research concerning 401k plans, 403b plans, and what happens to those at the time of a layoff or job change. And I was a little bit disappointed. You know why I was disappointed?
Why?
About 40% of the time, when a person moves from one job to the next, they cash out all or a portion of the 401k. Now, I know that you're thinking right now, well, Vicki, I had to make sure that I had money to live on during this time period when I had no job. That's usually the reason. So that's why I'm asking everyone now to build in some liquidity, go through the extra hours, okay, volunteering for extra hours, getting a side hustle so that you have that cushion built before it's time, before it happens, and you have to then make the hard decision, am I going to cash out my 401k? Here's why I'm going to tell you not to do that. Don't cash out the 401k. Let's play a game. You know, I love scenarios. Let's look at a scenario here. If you are, say, 30 years old or 35, let's take 35 years old, making about $50,000 a year. The average, if you look across the country, contribution rate is about 7% of income right now. And the average match is around 4%. So let's say 11% of your income is going into your 401k. Your contribution being somewhere around $350 on a biweekly basis. If that money continues, if you continue to do that and follow the inflationary pattern and increase it over 3% per year going forward, by the time you reach age 65, you should have in your 401k about $1,679,000. That's a nice piece of change.
Nice piece of change.
Okay, but I remember what one of my clients told me the other day. She said, $1 million is not what it used to be because the cost of living. Okay,
right.
So we really do need that type of nest egg going forward. But just basic math and looking at inflation, we should have around $1.6 million, $1.7 million, somewhere in that range with a 6% annual growth rate coming into retirement at age 65. Let's say that same person, though, got laid off. They had they started out with $5,000 in their account. They did this over the 30-year period. They got laid off. And instead of letting that money sit in the 401k when they transition jobs, or moving it to an IRA, or moving it to their new employer, which are all options that you have, they cashed it out and put it in their pocket. What's the first thing that's going to happen, George, when they cash it out?
They're going to be penalized.
They're going to be penalized. Okay, so whatever's in there, all of it's not coming to you. You're going to get penalized. And if you're the age that I described, 35, you're under age 59 and a half, so you got that 10% penalty plus the taxes for that year. And employers are required to hold back at least 20%. So that's 30% off the top before you even receive the check. So let's say now you get a new job, it's 4 or 5 months down the road, you've cashed out that money and you really have lost that 5 years that you were saving between 30 and 35. So if we calculated it again and now shorten the time period by 5 years that you have to accumulate funds, that $1.6 million drops to $1.4 million. And you're probably thinking, well, Vicki, that's not too bad. That's $1.4 million. That's still a nice piece of change. But here's the kicker. In order to get to that number and get you anywhere close again, instead of $346 that you have to save, it's $515. It's $515. So you lose on several ends. First of all, you didn't receive the full amount that was in the account because you had to pay taxes and penalties. Secondly, you end up at the end of the rainbow, at the end of the time period when you get ready to retire with a $200,000 less. And third, you've got to put in 100 and some change more than you did on a biweekly basis just to end up with less. So that sounds like a lose, lose, lose to me. But I am a realist. I realize that sometimes we need this money to bridge us over. So instead of looking at it the way we always have, which was don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, that's why I gave you the strategies ahead of time and said, get the side hustle now. And when you go back to work, keep the side hustle because you need the extra money to catch up on your 401k. You need those funds in order to catch up with your 401k. The third strategy is this: covering the pay gap. Do you know what I mean by pay gap, George?
No.
When you leave an employer and you come to the new employer, that first payroll period, do you get paid?
No.
No. And that usually surprises. We forget that I have this gap period.
Unless you negotiated something different.
Unless you negotiation is good for me. I love that. Okay, but
right. No, because I know somebody that recently changed jobs, and they needed some things to start on day one.
Okay.
Negotiate.
So here's the thing: plan it out. Okay, set the strategy. You know, I always talk about what if. So what if? So if you haven't negotiated it, then you need to be sure during the time period that you're not working that not only are we building for additional contributions that we have to make up in the 401k, that we're building for the pay gap. Because you go back to work and you think, oh, everything is fine. And then everybody else is getting their paycheck and you're going, oh, I forgot. Okay. And so you've got that month, more than likely, that you have to still cover expenses with no income coming in. Now, I am not guaranteeing, listen to me, George, I am not guaranteeing that we're going to have a recession. But what if we remember, we talked about a couple of weeks back that we're starting to see a slowdown in the supply chain issues, and that we have more inventory sitting on the shelves and fewer consumers are purchasing, and inflation is starting to crest. We got the lowest increase in inflation that we've had in about 20 months this month, when we got the reading a couple of days ago. So it does appear that the economy is slowing down, which will bring inflation down, but it means that employers are going to continue to pull back. And if they continue to pull back, the possibility of a recession looms bigger. And so we need to look at these three strategies and prepare. Well, George, now, I know you have something. Do you have anything to ask me before I go?
No, we're good.
Okay, so what I will say at this point in time, again, like, subscribe, and share. If you have any questions, particularly on how to move your 401k plan into the different avenues that are available, whether it be with your new employer or on an individual IRA basis, feel free to give us a call. Area code 315-930-4499, 315-930-4499. And my biggest announcement this week is this: our friendly neighborhood advisor, because I know you've been missing him, Mr. Michael Jennings, will be on for the next 2 weeks to talk to you about some of the things that he's seeing around your financial wellness and how to increase your financial wellness going forward. So at this point, George, I will say our plate is full.
All right. Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. She is America's money maven.